basin the moment I walked into the room. It was strange, out of place. I wondered why it was there, but I didn't give it a second thought. The atmosphere in the room was full of tension. Like water, just before it boils, there was lots bubbling underneath. It was Passover, but like no Passover I never experienced before. There were crowds everywhere, around every corner, and secret whispers behind every expression. I knew we were in danger. Jesus' strange entry into Jerusalem had stirred things up, created waves that might drown us all. I looked around at the room of this ragged group who had followed and hung around with Jesus these last 3 years. I studied their faces. Philip, Nathaniel, Andrew, James, John, Judas. Each told a different story. Each had a different expression. Anger, fear, despair, confusion, desperation. I wondered whether this was our last meal together. After supper, Jesus stood up, tied a towel around himself, and walked over to the basin. In the dead silence, all we heard was the deafening sound of pouring water. He knelt down and motioned to each of us to give him our feet for washing. Our feet. I was in shock. It's unheard of. Offensive. It's ludicrous. No way was he going to wash my dirty feet. Our rabbi, our leader, taking the role of a servant, of a slave. How shameful. How humiliating. It's just wrong. If anything, it should be us washing his feet. So I refused. But then Jesus said, I would have no share with him. No part with him. Lord, and not my feet only, but my hands and my head as well. I'm going all the way in, head to toe. My impulsiveness always gets me into trouble. I jump in the pool before I know if the water's deep enough. Somehow I knew these waters would become very deep indeed. Somehow I knew that basin was all about trouble, service, sacrifice, risk. All that was in those waters, in that basin. Once again, I was in over my head. Well, after washing our feet, Jesus said, tonight, you will all lose faith in me. I remember thinking right then, lose faith in you? Never. I couldn't just sit there. I had to say something, so I looked at him. I said, Jesus, I love you. You can count on me. Everybody else may fall away, but I will not. You can count on me. He looked at me and he smiled and said, Peter, you will deny me 3 times before tomorrow morning. Next thing I knew, we were wrapping things up, heading to the garden, and that's where we heard the voices. The footsteps. Suddenly we're surrounded by soldiers and police, hundreds of them, with lanterns, torches, weapons, and Judas. Judas. Leading the pack. I should have guessed it would be Judas, Jesus had hinted as much. The anger, the betrayal, the violence just boiled over me. I drew a sword and I struck out at anything, catching the ear of the high priest's slave. I was ready to draw more blood when Jesus stopped me in my tracks. Put your sword back into its sheath. Am I not to drink the cup that the Father has given me? Drink the cup. That's the question. That's the challenge. That's what this is all about. The cup is bitter to the taste. The cup is strong wine. The cup is pain and anguish and suffering. To drink it is to follow Jesus wherever he may go. The cup is the alternative to the sword. The cup may be the only way to life. But you first have to drink. It was then I knew he would die. I knew his blood would be shed. His cup would be drained to the very bottom. But a question remained. Could I drink the cup? Could I empty it to the dregs? Now I come to the really painful part. The part that has brought a heaviness to my heart. He tried to tell me that he would have to suffer and die. But I kept thinking there would be some other way. I wanted the Roman government to be overthrown and his kingdom to be put into place. When he was arrested and taken away, that was the lowest point in my life. My dreams were broken. My hope was gone. I felt deserted by my best friend. I felt there was no use continuing my allegiance to a dying cause. Several people saw me as I was warming myself by a fire and called out that I was one of his followers. I bristled at the thought. How could I be so stupid as to follow a powerless leader who didn't even resist arrest? I denied the accusation. One of the priests, one of the slaves of the high priest saw me. He had been at the Lord's arrest, and he said, "Didn't I see you in the garden with him?" I denied it more vehemently this time. I was never there. Jesus, I told them I never knew you. No sooner had those words escaped, a cock crowed. How I regret those words. That was last night. Today, I saw him die on the cross. I deserted you, my dearest friend. I'm not Peter the Rock. I'm Peter the Denier. But I lied to them. I lied. I do know you. I do love you. I do desire to serve you. I see it now. Jesus, you are the Messiah, the Anointed One, the Son of the living God, who has come to save me from my sin. Forgive me, Lord, for what I have done. Forgive me for what I have done.